This lecture is a follow-up to the previous video on control structures where we were discussing about flow control statements in Python, and we have learned about the conditional statements, and in this one we will be focusing on iterative statements. So let's understand what iteration in programming is. Iteration means executing the same block of code over and over again, that is potentially many times, and a programming structure that implements iteration is called a loop. Now let's first try to understand why do we need loops. The main reason why we need looping in programs is to make complex problems simpler, as sometimes we won't be writing the whole program to go through each query if the functionality remains same. For example, suppose you have to create a service that compares the credit score of customers with a cutoff score and rolls out their loan if their credit score is more than the cutoff value, else you reject their application. So here we have a condition based on which the decision should be taken that whether any customer is eligible for the loan or not. That means we have to use conditional statement for each customer. So to execute this task, what we can do, we can write the logic in a block of code each time for each new application that we receive. So if you have 100 applications, you manually write the code block for all the 100 applications you have received, and every time a new application comes in, you will have to do the same thing again. But this is pretty hectic, as you have to repeat the same logic for as many applications you get. Now imagine that the volume of application is continuously increasing, and in that case, dealing with repetitive commands will turn into a nightmare in no time, as your code increases in size, which is full of repetitive and redundant code blocks, and it makes the process complex and less efficient. The alternative way to approach the same problem more efficiently is to create the logic for your program, and you keep on iterating that logic for all the loan applications you have, and also use the same for any future application. Basically, you execute the block of code repeatedly once for each application through iteration. So for the first application, the code block runs to return whether the application is accepted or rejected, again for the second application, and so on. In Python, these iterations are facilitated by loops, which are type of control structures. The advantage of using loops, say for this example, we do not have to write the logic for each application, but we write the logic once and iteratively apply the same on all the applications, and this way the size of our code does not increase with increasing number of applications, the speed of execution increases, and also the complexity of the program remains less, making the program more efficient as a whole. So this is one example where we can use loops to make our program efficient. But you can also think of any situation that needs us to use a piece of code over and over again, and there to avoid redundancy we can use loops, as we do not want to write the same lines of code multiple times. Let's now move on to discussing the formal definition of loops. Loops or iterative statements are types of control structures that allow iteration. That is, executing a block of code with a statement or a group of statements repeatedly. In order to enter a loop, there has to be certain conditions that are to be defined in the beginning of the program. Now let's understand it with the help of a flowchart. Imagine you need a program that has to repeat something a million times. You would rather use the simple construction of code blocks that do the repetition for you. So what happens, the control comes here and the program checks the condition. Now let's say the condition is true and we entered the body of the loop, and so the conditional code gets executed, which is nothing but the statement or statements inside the body of the loop. That means it will execute the action as specified in this block. And following the body, the flow cycles back and does the check again. And if it is still true, then the program will make one more iteration, and this flow will keep on repeating until the condition is false. And once it is false, the control will move out of the loop and the execution continues with the block following the loop, which is in our case ends the algorithm. Now in programming, there are two types of iterations, definite and indefinite. With definite iteration, the number of times the loop is executed is specified explicitly at the time the loop starts. Therefore, the loops are so defined that at some point the condition has to be evaluated as false, and when it is false, the control will come out of the loop and we get a finite loop. This flowchart here depicts the program flow in case we have an algorithm with a basic finite loop. On the other hand, with indefinite iteration, the number of times the designated block is to be executed is not specified explicitly in advance. Rather, the actions get executed repeatedly as long as some condition is met, and the iterations are actually repeated infinitely, and the program with indefinite iteration follows this flow. Here, if the condition is never false, the control will never come out of the loop, and there will be infinite number of iterations. So there is no guarantee ahead of time regarding how many times the loop will go around. There is another way of categorizing loops which is based on where the condition gets checked. So we have pre-condition and post-condition loops. In post-condition loops, the control will first enter the loop and then in the end it will actually check the condition. So these loops check the condition after the body execution, and because of this structure, loops of this type guarantees that the body will execute at least once. But in precondition loops, the control will enter the loop only when the condition is true, that is, the condition is checked before the body execution, and such construction might quit before executing its body even once, that is, at zero iteration if the condition is false the first time. In Python, there is no post-test loop present, so we will be focusing on only precondition loops. Python provides two types of iterative statement, the while loop and the for loop. We use the while loop for indefinite iteration and use the for loop control structure for definite iteration. In Python, the keyword while is used to construct a while loop. This type of looping is used when we do not know how many iterations are required. Let me explain it with an example. You probably have experienced situation like, for example, drive until you have found a parking space. In a situation like this, we do not have knowledge about how long we need to drive. You may need to drive maybe around a block or two or even three to get a parking space. So the number of iterations that are required here is not pre-specified, and it will keep on iterating until certain condition is met, which is in our case finding a parking space. Let's visualize this with the help of a flowchart. What happens here is the control flow will move inside the loop when this while condition here, that is parking spot unavailable, is true, and when it is true, the body of the loop will be executed, that is keep driving, and then again it will go back to look for parking space and see whether the condition is true or not, and if it is still true, the body will be executed again, and this cycle will continue until the condition becomes false, and the control will finally come out of the loop, at which point the program execution proceeds to the next statement beyond the loop body, which is in this case the statement park. Here is the basic syntax of the while loop. Expression is the condition that is first evaluated in Boolean context. If it is true, the loop body is executed, and then the expression is checked again, and if it is still true, the body is executed again, and this continues until the expression becomes false and the control comes out of the loop. Statements represent the block that is to be executed repeatedly, which is basically the body of the loop that I was referring to. As you can see, this is denoted with indentation, and we have a colon following the expression, similar to an if statement. Now let's first see a simple application of while loop in Python. Suppose I want to print all numbers from 0 to 10. So first I need to define a variable, say, I'm initializing the variable n and assigning the value 0 to it. And now I'm going to use a while loop, and here I have to give a condition. Well, I want to print all the numbers from 0 to 10, so my condition here would be such that the expression becomes false when the value exceeds 10. I started with the variable n, so let's put n less than equal to 10. So here the expression n less than equal to 10 is true because n is 0, which is indeed less than equal to 10. And I include a print statement here. But if I now leave it here and run it, the body of the while loop, which is this single print statement, will be executed and this will continue infinitely. Let's run this and see what happens. The print statement is getting executed again and again, and theoretically it never ends. But if you leave it like this, after some time our program is going to either crash, raising some sort of exception, or our kernel will die out eventually. So let's interrupt the kernel in order to terminate the execution. Well, clearly 0 is less than equal to 10, which is true, and true will never be false. So this is equivalent to writing while true, and here we have entered an infinite loop that in theory runs forever. Maybe that does not sound like something we want to do and just happens by mistake, but actually it is quite common in practice. For example, you might design a code for a service that once started will run forever accepting service request. By the way, forever in this context means until you shut it down. There are ways to exit such loops, but we'll discuss that in some time. But hold on, here we have only printed the number 0 for so long, because we were printing n which has the value 0. But we want to print numbers from 0 to 10. That means what we need to do is with each iteration, we need to increase the value of n by 1 to make sure we print all the values from 0 to 10, and then we can exit the loop once the value 10 gets successfully printed. So for that, what I need to do is write n equals n plus 1. Well, you already know how this expression can be modified using augmented assignment operator. So let's use the add an assignment operator here. So n plus equals 1, and let's also write a statement that is beyond the loop, a print statement. And now let's run it, and you can see all numbers from 0 to 10 have been printed. And once the condition here becomes false, the control comes out of the loop and prints the end of loop statement, which is the code block following the loop. Well, for your better understanding, let's also include a print statement below here. Now let's run it once more. And as you can see, the last n after increment is 11, which when enters back in the while loop is evaluated as false, as 11 is not less than or equal to 10, and so the program flow comes out of the loop and moves to the next block. Let's consider another example. Here we are doing the same thing as the previous example, but in reverse order. So this code will print all numbers from 10 to 0. N is initialized with the value 10. Now let's run it. Here the condition in the first iteration is evaluated as true as 10 is greater than or equal to 0. So the loop body executes and prints number is 10. Then in the next line, n is decremented by 1 and the value of n is now 9, which enters the loop again and evaluated as true as 9 is again greater than or equal to 0. and so the value gets executed once again, and this cycle continues until n becomes less than 0, and then the expression gets evaluated to false and the loop body no longer gets executed, and the program execution resumes at the next statement that follows the loop body, which in this case prints the statement end of loop. You may also change this expression from n greater than equal to 0 to n greater than -1, which are effectively the same. And similarly, in the previous example also, you may write n less than 10 instead, as both are essentially same. Now let's see how we can use a while loop to iterate over a sequence type object. Let me define a list, declare a variable, say mylist, and this contains 3 strings, ham, egg and bacon. Now recall that whenever we evaluate a sequence type object in Boolean context, it will return true unless the object is an empty sequence. So if we evaluate mylist in Boolean context, it will always return true because this is not an empty list. That means as long as this list contains at least one element, it should return true, and once the list becomes empty, it should return false. Let's now write a while loop. Because of what I just said, this expression is true. So if I run it, we will enter into an infinite loop. So what I need to do here is something so that the list can be modified in place, and with each iteration, we eventually get an expression that is falsy, and this will happen if we keep on removing an element in each iteration, and that will finally give us an empty list which is falsy. And for that I can use the pop method. As we know, the pop method without any argument passed removes the last element of a mutable sequence at every call. Take a moment to think about what the output is going to be and how many times I am going to iterate over this code. Now let's check. So what we see is we have bacon, egg and then ham. And after each of the element of the list has been printed, we have this line of code printed as well. So both these lines comprise the body of the code, and finally the statement following the loop gets printed. And if you now check mylist, it is empty. So all the elements in mylist as we defined it here, one by one from the right the elements get removed from the list. So in the first iteration, mylist, which had 3 elements, is truthy. So it enters the loop body and modifies the list by applying the pop method and removing the last element, that is bacon, from the list and printing the following statement. But still the list contains the 2 elements ham and egg. The condition is checked again and the list is evaluated as true, as it is not yet empty. So we again enter the loop body, removing the last element from the list, which was then egg, and printing the following statement once again. And now it has only one element, which is ham, and this is removed in the next iteration. So when the condition is checked for the 4th time, this time the list is empty, and so it no longer enters the loop body to print the statement and proceeds to the next statement that immediately follows the loop. So far, the examples that we saw, the entire body of the while loop gets executed on each iteration. But what if we want to terminate a loop iteration at a certain point? For this, Python provides 2 keywords, break and continue, that allow us to terminate a loop iteration prematurely. We have already talked about these keywords in a previous lecture on Python keywords, so let's just briefly recap what we already know. The Python break statement immediately terminates a loop entirely, and the program execution proceeds to the next statement following the loop body. The continue keyword, on the other hand, terminates the current loop iteration. It does not break out of the loop entirely but terminates the current loop iteration, and the execution jumps to the top of the loop, and the controlling expression is re-evaluated to determine if there will be any more iteration, that is whether the loop will execute again or terminate. Let's understand these with the help of flowcharts. So if we have a break statement, the loop is immediately terminated and the control of the program flows to the statement immediately after the body of the loop. But in case we have a continue statement, it skips the remaining body of the loop for the current iteration only and goes back to the test expression of the loop. So for a while loop, the distinction between a break and a continue statement can be demonstrated as: the break statement exits the entire loop to proceed to the next statement outside the loop, while in case of continue, this rest of the loop body is skipped and the test expression gets evaluated once more. Let's now do some coding to understand these. If we run this, it will print all the numbers from 4 to 0 as n is initialized as 5, and at every iteration n decreases by 1, and this flow continues until the expression is false and n becomes equal to 0. Let's run it and we get the output as expected. But now let's say I do not want the loop to continue any further if I encounter a multiple of 3. For this, we need to include a conditional statement. And here goes the break statement. Now this condition will only be met when the value of n gets reduced to 3, right? So let's run this code. As you can see, once it encounters n equals 3, that is in the second iteration, it no longer executes the remaining body of the loop, which includes these two statements, and terminates the loop entirely, printing the value of n only once, and proceeds to execute the code that follows the loop. So now if I replace this break statement with continue statement, let's see what happens. Here it skips printing n when n equals 3, as 3 modulo 3 is equal to 0, and also when n equals 0, as 0 modulo 3 is also equal to 0. Now let's learn how we can include an else clause in a while loop. This is actually a unique feature of Python. We are allowed to add an optional else clause at the end of a while loop, and the syntax is like this. The additional statement or statements specified in the else clause will be executed when the while loop terminates. Now you must be wondering, how is this else clause useful, as you can accomplish the same thing just by putting the additional statement immediately after the loop, as we saw here. But in this case, where we place the additional statements immediately after the loop, the statements get executed no matter what. So the statements here will be executed after the while loop terminates. So if I just modify this code, well, both are equivalent as both give you the same output. But let's now consider the loop with the break statement. Here the program flow breaks out of the loop when n equals 3. Now if I include an else statement here, and if I now run this, we no longer get this statement in the else clause printed. So if the loop exited by a break statement, the else clause won't be executed, and that means when the additional statements are placed in an else clause, they will be executed only if the loop terminates by exhaustion. That is, if the loop iterates until the controlling condition becomes false. But if it is exited by a break statement, the else clause won't be executed. So in this case, having an else statement is not at all needed. You can place the statement just immediately after the loop, but here since we have a break statement, including an else clause makes sense. Now the else statement may look a bit odd in the while loop, but to develop the intuition, imagine the while statement as an if condition that gets executed until the condition is met, and the else clause gets executed finally when the while condition becomes false. Now let's see a better example. See, I have a list L, and this contains a few strings, and I am looking for an item in this list. Say that item is B and I assign it to a variable S. So you can use the break statement to exit the loop if the item is found, and if the item is not found, then you should print something like the item is not found. We can of course do it by using conditionals only, but for the sake of understanding, let's try this using a while loop. First, let me define a variable I equals 0, and this will keep the count of the index of elements in the list. And so we have the expression I less than len of L. This will prevent us to go beyond the range of the item indices, and as long as I is less than the length of the list, the expression will be true and otherwise false. This means if the element is at index I, it will print the index and the loop is exited, else we move to the next index. And here comes the else clause. Now let's run it. This gives the index of B, which is 1 in this list. Now if I try to find say Z in the list, this time the else clause gets executed and states that it is not found, which is what we have in this print statement inside else. We mostly saw examples that are quite simple. Now let's increase the complexity of the situation and see a more practical application of while loop. Let's build a number guessing game. First, the user will select a range, say from A to B, where A and B are both integer type objects, and some random integer will be selected by the system, and the user has to guess that integer in a default maximum number of tries. For example, if the user selects a range, say from 1 to 100, and the system randomly selects, say, a number 42, which should lie between 1 and 100 exclusive of these, and now the guessing game starts. So if the user enters say 50 as his or her first guess, the response should be try again, the number is too large, which means the system selected a number that is obviously not in the range of 50 to 100 but should be below 50. Now the user makes the second guess, that is 20, and this time the response should be try again, the number is too small. And this means the system generated a number which lies between 20 and 50. And finally, when the user guesses the right number, the response should be congratulations, you did it, and you exit the loop as the user has won the game. But in case if the user fails to guess the correct answer within the maximum number of tries, the response should be better luck next time, and also the correct answer should be displayed. This is a perfect example in order to show why do we need a while loop, because if you notice here, I do not know how many iterations are required, similar to our parking space problem, and in order to guess the answer correctly, we should be designing an algorithm such that we can iterate over indefinite number of times. So let's code this. We need to import the random module as the system needs to generate a random number. The user needs to input the lower bound and the upper bound of the range, and both should be integer, and hence we have used the integer function here. This is for the system to generate a random integer number in the range, and this function returns a random integer exclusive of the boundary. This is the default number of chances the user gets for any range. And this is to inform the user how many chances he or she will be getting. Now for the repetitive guessing, a while loop has to be initialized. So we start by initializing a variable count equals 0, and this will keep track of how many chances the user is taking. And now we need to write the while loop. With every iteration, the user is using one chance, and as chance is equal to 10, so he has 10 chances, that is 0 to 9 fragged by the count variable. With every iteration, the user guesses one number. If the user guesses correctly, the response should be "Congratulations, you did it in this many tries," and the program exits the loop. If the randomly generated number is greater than the number guessed by the user, the response should be "Try again, number is too small." So this gets executed when the random number is less than the user guess, and the response should be "Try again, the number is too big." Now if the user fails to guess the correct answer within 10 tries, that means in case when the while loop terminates by exhaustion and the expression here becomes false, but the user still does not have the right answer, then we can include this part in an else clause. And this prints the correct answer. Now let's run this. Say the lower bound is 1 and the upper bound is 100. Let the first guess be 50. Now if it states that the number is too high, that means our number lies in the range 1 to 50. and we can ignore the numbers 50 onwards. But if it says too small, that means our number lies in the range of 50 to 100. Let's try. So it displays number is too big, that means the number to guess lies between 1 and 50. Now let the second guess be 20. Well, 20 is too small, that means the number lies somewhere between 20 and 50, and so the next guess be 35. Again it is too small, so the next guess is between 35 and 50, say 45, and again it is too small. So a number is 1 among 46, 47, 48 and 49. Let's choose 48. And well, we have guessed it correctly this time, and we have guessed the correct answer in only 5 tries. But luckily, not always we'll be lucky enough to correctly guess the number in only a few tries, and for that we have an optimum solution. But I hope you have understood in what scenarios we have to use a while loop and how an else clause can be used in indefinite iterations. But the optimum way is to guess the numbers such that at each guess we can reduce the range to half of the previous. If the initial range is 1 and 100, then the first guess should be 50, and if the response is the number is too high, that means our range is 1 to 50, and so the next guess would be 25 and so on. And similarly, if the response is the number is too small, then our range is 50 to 100, so our next guess should be 75 and so on. Let's see. This time 50 seems to be too small, so the system generated number is definitely not same as the previous one. Well, I did not make any changes to the code, I just executed it once. So the number to guess as generated by the random integer function from the random module are indeed random. Now as 50 is too small, the range is now halved and our number is between 50 and 100. So the next guess should be 75. Again 75 is too big, so the number to guess is somewhere between 50 and 75. Let's reduce the range to half again and choose 63. Again too big, so number is between 50 and 63. Half the range again, say 56 or 57, and again it is too big. So our next guess should be half the range of 50 and 57, which is 53, and now it is too small. That means the number lies between 53 and 57, and so it could be either 54, 55 or 56. Let's choose the middlemost number again, that is 55, and we got the correct answer in just 6 tries. But if we do not follow the optimum way of finding the correct answer and keep on guessing wrong answers and exhaust all the 10 tries, find out what happens. Now in general, Python control structures can be nested within another. We have seen nested if statements. Similarly, we can have nested while loops as well. A while loop can be contained within another while loop. For example, so here I have a while loop inside another while loop, and this works completely fine. And also we can use a break or a continue statement within a nested loop that applies to the nearest enclosing loop. For example, now if I outdent the break, now this time it works for the first while loop. And additionally, while loops can also be nested inside conditional statements and vice versa. We have seen examples of conditionals nested within while loop in our number game. So try to think of an example where you can use a while loop nested within a conditional statement. In fact, all the Python control structures, including the for loop that we'll be discussing next, can be intermingled with one another to whatever extent you may need. Like an if statement, a while loop can also be specified in one line. Usually we will have multiple statements in a loop body, and we can write a multi-line statement in one line separated by semicolon. But remember, this practice is discouraged by the Python styling guide and hence not covered in this tutorial. If you still want to check how it works, you can find resources online. In the next class, we will continue our discussion on control structures and learn about definite iteration in Python with for loop. Until then, try solving the assignments. Thank you and see you in the next class.